Hey guys, Badman here. Time for another Monday morning quarterback. So, me and my friends were playing a ranked match recently that I thought would be a good review for me personally to go through and review and see what we should do differently. By no means am I an expert on this, and I'm sure there will be a bunch of opinions against mine, and I recommend, or I would love to hear those. Please share them with me, share them in the comments, or message me or whatever. But I think there are some things we could have done differently on this round that really would have made it much easier for us to get the win, even though we still get the win anyway. While this is playing from the top down in the background, first, just wanted to mention a couple things. One is, obviously, we're playing ranked, but we're playing for fun. If you're going for a win, you really want to have a strat that is organized and have roles that are organized. In this case, we really don't, and that's totally fine depending on how you're playing, and so it's kind of hard to judge this round fully based on a strat when we weren't playing very strat focused, which again is totally fine to play that way, but some of my criticisms are probably not great in the sense that we were playing for fun. So keep that in mind. On that, I think it's interesting to look at our op selection, and you can see we're running I think a pretty balanced lineup, except for one thing. We really don't have wall denial. And that actually comes to bite us fairly early when the master wall gets opened into Statuary. Because when that wall gets opened, you really don't have the ability to rotate from Astro back into the sites without being in an immediate crossfire. So that should have been something, having either a Cade or a Bandit or a Mute would have really gone a long way. But other than that, I think our op selection is pretty versatile. And so I'm going to let this go ahead and play out, and we'll talk about it later.
Seconds remaining. 10 seconds to go. 5 seconds to go. Attackers need to locate.
All right, so you saw that near throw, and now we're going to go back and we're watching the top-down view, but we'll cut back and forth from the top down to various perspectives. And I think it's just important to dive in first to our setup and what happens first. I think overall most of this setup is reasonable. The castles are in good places. Unfortunately, we don't get the last castle down. Also, our Goyo, and this ends up being a point we'll talk about once we get in the action phase. Our Goyos probably could have been placed a little bit differently, and if they were, could have really denied that initial push. Also, our Goyo did a fantastic job actually trading because the Ash rushed, so trading was amazing. But the Goyo that was kind of on that wall was not by the castle. If it was, it would have been destroyed by the Ash as they hit the door, but also he died with one in his pocket, which is not good either. So we see the Ash about to push now. The Ash rushes in, but because the castle barricade was destroyed without the Goyo being on or beside that castle barricade, there was no immediate denial. If that had been on that door, then the Ash may have died just from the fire alone. So just a point to point out. As I mentioned before, losing the master bedroom wall is a pretty big blow to this site, because now you can't rotate from astronomy into wolf or statue without having another angle to consider. And the fact that we gave this up without any denial probably wasn't a good strategy on our part. Valkyrie hits an awesome C4 here, which is textbook on the soft floor here. And this is huge because Osa is your shield op. They have smoke, so for the execute, this is a big blow to the attacking team. You can see Valk was up in 90 on cams at that point and rotated to the other side of Aviator and started picking a fight with those outside of Boar window. He then rotates back around to 90 because they knew where he was, and he's still looking to Boar window to try and aggress. But I think we need to stop and take a look at what we're dealing with. It's a 4v3. We've got 3 people, well, technically 1 person on site, 2 people just off site in astronomy. And Bernie's not far off site either. Valkyrie, just outside of Boar. So we're all fairly close, but we're not ideally positioned. And when you have a 4v3, now you want to have your crossfire set up to where when somebody pushes from one angle, they have to go into a crossfire and you just win trades, and then the math works out in your favor. Unfortunately, the way we're positioned, that's not possible because we do have some cross action, but with 2 people in astronomy, those people could be dealt with without having a true crossfire. We could line up and both be killed against 1 player. With both of your castle barricades up in bathroom, 1 on the window and 1 on the master bedroom door, a player could be in bathroom, and then the player in astronomy and the one in bathroom have a crossfire for the astronomy stairs. Plays like this give you a better likelihood of success. And with Aruni, me in this match, if I would have been in bathroom, I could have had a cross with castle. I could have opened that castle barricade into master if they decide to push through the breach, and you could make them uncomfortable that way too. So separating a little bit rather than being on each other's toes is probably a better way to play this. Now, it turns out a player on the opposing team decides to go for the push-up astronomy on their own without backup or support, and I swing, which is not a advised thing, but I end up swinging and getting the kill, which is great, and leaves us in even a better advantage that unfortunately we squander in just a moment. Now, as we can see, the teammate that was outside of Boar dropped down and was going to push astronomy as well, but because his teammate just lost a gunfight there and there was a proximity alarm on that stairwell, he thought better of it and decided to rotate away. But now that we know there is 1 in master and we suspect there's no one at Boar anymore, This is the time when we consolidate to site, and we should make sure we have those crossfires that we need to seal the round. But unfortunately, we don't. And several attempts at 1v1s get us in trouble. A late rotate by Valk rather than just coming back to site and letting them push you. There are several issues that get us in trouble here at the end, and I'm going to let it play out. Here, Legion is picking a little bit of a fight and takes some damage from the ace back in Master. But then eventually I go all in and lose the fight. And then we subsequently have multiple 1v1s, one where Valk didn't really know the person had rotated to red. And the second was Castle turning their view towards red right when the ace pushed through the master breach, and we just weren't focused on where the pushes were coming and having crossfires to make sure we were able to trade. And we lost 3 1v1s in a row. And then thankfully the Legion Ramblin wins those 2 1v1s back to back. A couple things to note here at the end. One is that Legion wins some awesome gunfights that he really shouldn't have won. With the opponents having 2 guys up, they should have been able to cover for each other and not push that breach and make the Legion now take from you while you're covering a plant. So that was one element. And secondly, another thing to point out as well, Legion has 4 goo mines in his pocket. Even prior to the plant, he had 3. And so this is just utility that wasn't used. And, you know, with a little bit of planning, there could have been a Legion at the breach and might have helped Castle. There could have been a Legion at the Wolf Door, other places that could have given you some comfort, knowing that people weren't going to push you from certain directions. So that could have been another thing that could have been helpful, not just with Legion, but with all of us kind of using our utility better from Goyo and Castle getting the last one down, better use of the Arunis, and even having those Legion mines placed. Anyways, guys, those are my thoughts. I hope this has been a good exercise for you. I think it's been helpful for me, and hopefully will help me play my future rounds a little bit more focused and objective oriented, and hopefully lead to more wins and with less stress. Thanks, guys. Leave some comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.